comb!
Alright, it certainly has been a while since the last video, but university for the most part is now over and I finally settled in my new home in San Diego. In order to make up for lost time, I'm going to be recommending 4 manga in this vid. But not just any manga, but hardcore mangas, both new and old. And starting off this batch of hardcore manga recommendations, we have something from an unlikely source, being from Modern Weekly Shonen Jump, being Chainsaw Man, a series created by Tatsuki Fujimoto, the creator of Fire Punch, which I have not read yet for myself, but I've heard it's a really wild series. And Chainsaw Man doesn't seem any different in that regard. The story here follows Denji, an extremely poor teenager, so poor the dude has sold one of his eyes, kidneys, and even one of his own damn balls, due to being in extreme debt with some Yakuza because of his dead parents. In order to pay back the Yakuza, Denji becomes a devil hunter, killing devils and giving the remains to the Yakuza, alongside his newfound devil friend Pochita, a devil chainsaw dog who is like absolutely adorable. However, one day Denji and Pochita get double crossed by the Yakuza who betray Denji for devil power. On the brink of death, Pochita decides to use the last of his life force to fuse with Denji, not only giving Denji another chance at life and try to achieve something, but also giving him the ability to transform into the Chainsaw Man. And I gotta say, this design kicks ass. Like, come on, this thing looks so fucking metal, and I cannot wait for the day that if this series becomes successful enough, to have this guy alongside Luffy and Midoriya in the next Jump crossover game. But getting back to the story, after avenging himself and Pochita, Denji is then found by Makima, an official devil hunter from the Public Safety Devil Hunter organization, who takes an interest in Denji and his abilities, giving Denji the option of either being killed on the spot or become her pet, to which Denji gladly decides to become a pet, as at this point this is what he's used to, plus free food and a hot girl. While joining her, Denji learns more about devils, such as how many of them are powered by fear, how certain devils can have contracts made with them to help devil hunters in battle, as well as the inclusion of Devilmen. Wait, unholy shit, is that a motherfucking Devilman reference? Well, in this series, Devilmen are humans who've died and had their bodies taken over by demons. So basically the 70s anime Devilman. Denji, according to the series, doesn't qualify as a Devilman, as Pochita didn't take over Denji, but rather just fused with him to save him from dying. Now with Denji working as an official devil hunter, he comes across various other devil hunters, who he teams up with to go on missions to kill devils, most of which are mainly fueled out of Denji's own self-interest. Now, Chainsaw Man is still pretty new in Jump, and honestly, I'm still surprised that this is a weekly Shonen Jump series, with its more dark and crude nature. However, to me, what really sets the series apart from other Jump series, as well as makes it such an interesting read, is Denji himself, as his attitude and goals truly separate him from other Jump protagonists. He's not after being the strongest or best, he has no strong morals or ideals, he just wants to eventually achieve a life where he can live simply and eat toast with jam and maybe get some action with a hot girl, which is usually the cause for him going against all these crazy demons. One scene in particular that really highlights this is where Denji's fighting against the Bat Devil, who if he could kill and rescue one of his co-worker's cats, he will be able to squeeze that co-worker's boobs for a bit. However, while fighting, there's a panel where the devil throws a car at Denji, to which Denji then catches, and while the driver thinks he's been saved, Denji then immediately throws the car right back at the devil, only for the devil to kill the driver by sucking out his blood. And just this, I guess you could say, reckless horniness is just really entertaining to see come out of a Jump main character. Also, you know, the fact that he can fucking transform into a chainsaw demon man with like a damn chainsaw pompadour. Again, I just love this design. However, there's more to Denji as a character that can be developed down the line that will be really interesting to see if this manga decides to go that far, as so far a lot of Denji's desires evolve over time. Like, going out of your way just to squeeze some boobs isn't nearly as exciting as when there's a built-up relationship between two people, and seeing how that can be developed on a grander scale for this character, if this manga decides to go down that path, should be interesting to read through. Not to mention that Denji as a character has been pretty much used his entire life, being a dog for the Yakuza, and is currently now being treated as Makima's pet. So seeing if he ever becomes more of his own person in the series as it progresses would also be pretty interesting to read through. However, moving on from Denji as a character, there are a few other things that make this manga something worthwhile to check out. While not much of the setting has been fully explored yet, it definitely does have potential with the devils, devilmen, and devil hunter associations. I also really like how in this series devils are sort of themed and gain power off of fear, which makes future encounters with devils really interesting to see. Speaking of the devils, let's talk about the art here. Well, for the most part, I could see the art not being everyone's cup of tea, considering that I'm not really too sure how to describe it well myself, but a lot of panels, especially those of which that focus on the human characters, seem a bit stiff and sketchy, which I'm fine with for the most part. However, once we get to the devil side of things, the art just looks amazing, as the devils look grotesque, monstrous, and badass, and again, the Chainsaw Man design, so good! But overall, if you want a unique and just absolutely wild shonen jump experience, paired alongside some demon action, definitely give this one a read, as I do feel like it has a lot of potential, as long as Jump doesn't decide to cancel it. Up next, we have another hardcore manga being Shumatsu no Valkyrie, or Record of the Ragnarok. Now the story here is pretty simple. The gods of various mythologies have come together in a giant meeting to discuss the fate of humanity, and they pretty much come to the conclusion that they should just be wiped out. However, a Valkyrie by the name of Broomhild steps in and proposes a plan that could give humanity another chance that will also satisfy the violent gods. This plan being a massive tournament in which 13 gods will fight against 13 worthy humans from various time periods, with the winning side of the tournament deciding the fate of humanity. While humans going against gods may seem unfair, they are at least backed up with enhanced weaponry powered by Valkyries to help them out in battle. And with that, this outrageous tournament power begins. So far, this manga has been nothing but just battles between god and man, which of course is really fun and hot-blooded, as well as obviously manly, especially the Adam vs Zeus battle. Much more focus of this manga is given to the human side, going heavier into the mortal heroes' backstories and their thoughts, which I guess makes sense as it is the side we were supposed to root for. While I do have fun reading this manga for its concept alone, I do have some issues that I hope do get resolved during its run. The battles, while fun, just lack a certain impact to them. I mean, come on, these are supposed to be epic battles between gods and man, and personally, I just expect a little bit more out of them, as fights so far lack a great amount of strategy, with most of them just resulting in big slugfest until one side eventually dies. Which, considering again these battles are humans going against gods of various myths and legends, you'd think they'd go into these battles with a little bit more caution and strategy than just going up to them and punching them in the face. But maybe we'll work ourselves up to that with the eventual Rasputin or Tesla battles. And yes, those two are contestants in this battle against gods. The god side of the fights are also a bit disappointing, as not only are they not given as much focus as the humans, but they also don't seem that godly. In battle, they barely utilize any of their godly special abilities. I mean, Thor and Zeus barely use any electric based attacks in their fights at all. But hopefully these problems get fixed as the manga continues. As of this recording, only 3 of the 13 fights have happened. Despite these complaints, I still have a great time reading this series. It's a really cool and fun concept, and while I do expect a bit more from the action, it still is manly and hot-blooded. So if anything I've mentioned about this manga interests you, definitely give it a read. And now we're gonna kick it old school with the next manga on this recommendation being for Mad Bull 34. Now, I've recommended the OVA series for Mad Bull in the past, and while I definitely think it's a great macho watch, the manga by far is the superior experience here, and I can't believe it's taken me this long to get around to reading it. Now, for those who don't know, Mad Bull 34 is an insane series created by the iconic and sadly recently deceased Kazuo Koike, who handled the story, as well as Inoue Noriyoshi, who did the art, which is amazing, but we'll get into that a bit later. Mad Bull 34 follows a Japanese-American cop by the name of Daizaburo and his new partner John Estes, who often goes by the nickname Sleepy and is more infamously known as the Mad Bull of the 34th Precinct, due to his excessive police brutality when dishing out justice, as well as trying to fuck every hot lady that passes his sights. Together, Daizaburo and Sleepy get into many outrageous battles against crime, as well as survive the waves of criminals out to kill them. Now, even more so than the OVA, the Mad Bull manga is super crude and explicit, with tons of violence, rape, racism, borderline pornographic moments, and just pure insanity. Trust me, that infamous grenade jockstrap scene is just the tip of the iceberg here. Not only is the action in this series completely over the top, but so are the criminals. Our deadly cop duo go against an explosive hitman named Nickel, who alerts his targets with his smelly diabetic piss. There's also another criminal by the name of Flying Duncan, who you think is named that way because of their grand escapes or their gymnastic abilities, but no, it's just because that person likes to have sex while jumping out of planes. Yep, that's Mad Bull 34 for you. Even a lot of the actions and decisions a lot of the characters make in this series are just plain insane. Honestly, some of this shit you just have to read for yourself, but even if it comes from a place of good intention, some of these characters just take the most batshit insane approach to do things. So if you can't handle this insanely explicit or hardcore nature of the series, definitely skip this one. However, if you can handle it, then you are in for a truly over-the-top and explosive ride that is essentially an 80s buddy cop action movie put on steroids and even still way more hardcore than that itself. Sleepy as a character is a super underrated manly character. I mean, look at this dude. He brutally kills criminal scum and fucks practically every hottie near him on a daily basis. Not to mention the man has flipped over tanks as well as killed a great white shark with his bare hands. This guy is a legend. However, what truly elevates the experience of reading this series is the art. Almost every title page of this manga looks worthy of being a poster for its own 80s action movie. All the action in the manga is done with a very cinematic flair, really immersing you into the action, feeling the impact of each brutal punch or tackle, the intensity of each gunshot, and the pure adrenaline of each car chase. Also, like most great manly series, the character designs for a lot of our heroes exude testosterone. The women are absolutely gorgeous, and the criminals look as scummy as their actions. Honestly, I don't think you could call yourself a true fan of hardcore action manga if you haven't read Mad Bull 34. So if you think you could handle this wild ride, definitely give it a shot. But now moving on, we have our final hardcore manga to be recommended in this video, being Makai Tensho, which originally is a Japanese historical fantasy novel that has seen many adaptations over the years, with everything from anime, manga, live action movies, and video games. However, for today we'll be focusing on the manga adaptation done by the legendary Ken Ishikawa of Getter Robo fame, though the OVA adaptation under the name of Ninja Resurrection is also pretty great. I mean, if you want to talk about hardcore, there's a dude in this OVA that kills a bunch of other dudes with his exposed intestines. But going back to the manga by Ken Ishikawa, to make the story real simple, basically after a failed uprising against the shogunate, a madman by the name of Shiro Amakusa brings back various historical Japanese figures from the dead and demonizes them in order to bring hell upon Japan, and the only one that could stop this calamity is the legendary samurai Yagyu Jubei. And that's pretty much it here, just a bunch of good old samurai and demon action, which makes for a really badass and hardcore time, especially with loads of over-the-top kills, all done in about 11 chapters, making this a really quick and violent read. However, for me, what really makes this manga a must-read is for Ken Ishikawa's artwork. Ken Ishikawa as an artist I feel never gets enough credit. In the beginning of his career, it was very similar to Go Nagai's, which isn't that much of a surprise considering that he used to be an assistant for Nagai. However, over time in his career, he really built off Nagai's style and made something of his own, which is really such a badass sight to behold, especially in this manga. Character designs just scream hot-blooded. The demons look horrifying and badass, and let's not forget the absolutely awesome and truly epic double page spreads or massive panels filled with demonic imagery going on in the background, which are honestly the biggest highlights of reading this manga series outside all the brutal violence. So once again, if you're in for another demonic, gory, action-packed series with amazing artwork that also happens to be relatively short, check out Makai Tensho. And with that, I think it's about time to wrap up this batch of hot-blooded, manly, and hardcore manga recommendations. It's good to be back once again, and hopefully I could keep up a steady stream of content over the summer. As always, I am Mr.FalconPunch. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.